Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back here to a new series starting on Sean Does FM with me, Sean. Hopefully you guys figured that out considering the channel name. But coming up today, we're going to be starting a new save here on the channel where we're going to try and go from being a rookie manager to royalty and try and become one of the best managers in the world. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to this series. If you are, do make sure to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and also make sure you also hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. The episode's coming out every single weekday as long as it's not a public holiday here in New Zealand, and fingers crossed I can even get around that sometimes for all you guys up in the Northern Hemisphere. But we'll start off here with the save setup. We have actually loaded in the FM Inside Winter Update Pack, and also that includes the Around the World Mega Pack, so it does mean we've added in quite a few leagues. As you'll see here shortly on the save setup screen there, you can see some of the agent packs and also the transfer packs to get this updated off the back of that January transfer window. And then there is an absolute butt ton of leagues here that we can load in, and we have done quite a few of those, as you'll see shortly once we make our way through here to once the game database does get loaded up. And we will just quickly run off those nations before we go all the way down here, so you guys do know which ones are playable. The other ones on there are going to be view only. So I'll just pop over here to this list that I do have up and go over to Whiteface Shore. We have actually got nations from all 6 regions in the world. So we can do, if we really want to, a hexagon challenge. But I think mainly we'll just operate on vibes. But seeing as I'm from New Zealand, obviously we've got those guys in there from Oceania as well as Fiji, Tahiti, and the Cook Islands, seeing as you can get there on New Zealand passport. Anyway, in terms of Asia, we've got South Korea, Japan, China, Saudi Arabia, Australia, obviously with the A-Leagues teams over there, unfortunately just the one, and also Iran and Africa, South Africa obviously being in the base game as well now as Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, and DR Congo. In Europe, we've got England, Spain, Germany, Italy, France, the big 5, as well as the Netherlands, Sweden, Portugal, Serbia, Belgium, and I threw in Iceland because of a previous save I did called Husavik Heroes. We'll see if we can go back to Volswinger at some point during the save. In North America, just the 3 nations, Mexico, USA, and Costa Rica playable. And in South America, we've got Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile. So we have got quite a few nations that we can make our way through here in terms of this save. Also, in terms of things ticked below there, in terms of the save setup, we've got no key staff being added. We've disabled the first transfer window, which should mean that all the transfers that did go through in January, they'll still be there once we do start the save, which will be on this day in real life, March the 10th, which in game will be a Sunday. Of course, in real life, it's a Monday because it's still 2024 in game instead of 2025 for them, and no FM25. And also, we have made sure that we've disabled player attribute masking, just to make sure that if we do a hexagon challenge, it's the proper version with those attributes not being able to be shown. The start date that we've chosen is actually going to be in India to make sure that that first transfer window back at the start of the season isn't the one that gets skipped over. It will be the one in January, so the likes of Marcus Rashford will still be at Aston Villa. Now, in terms of our profile, you can see there, going back to Sean Does FM off the back of the Clockbots puppet. Now, I know what some of you are going to be thinking there. We've got an additional language that I've put there on my CV in Korean. Some of you are probably thinking, that's lying. To be fair, you might be somewhat right, but I do have a South Korean wife, and I know a few terms. 감사합니다, 안녕하세요. Yeah, I'm legit on my Korean, so we're going to be fine there. Also, I've got makju down pat, all the makju that we can handle over there in Korea. I'm sure, even though I don't know how to say please, if I say makju beer enough, they'll know that they need to bring me a beer. So we've got Korean down there as a second language, because it's definitely something that we put there on our footballing CV, especially just to see if we can get some jobs there over in South Korea. But apart from that, it's all the basic info about me, the manager face that we've been using. Also, we've got the outfit that we're wearing here in real life. It's pretty legit, as you'll see. We've got loans on our shirt. We know all about football. Because of that, we've got watches, and of course, we will start off unemployed as well. In terms of the attributes, we have bumped up our adaptability and also have got ourselves being knowledgeable. I did just complete a basics of scouting course since I finished the last series here, RB Clockbot. So that's actually relatively accurate over there on the right-hand side. The left-hand side, to be fair, we just kind of left that alone, seeing as that's going to be an absolute mess anyway with those rubbish attributes that we do have. So let's see up in terms of how we got things going for the save. And going over in FM itself, you can see they're loaded up on the 16th of October, which should be in 2024, but of course it says in 2023. There you can see all the available jobs at the start of the save. But as I said, we're going to sim forward to the 10th of March and see what's going on this date in real life.
A few moments later.
And here we are, so we can finally start applying now for some jobs here with our manager. A quick look again at what he does look like in game. He's absolutely rubbish. Let's hope we can get a decent job for our first one, but let's be fair, it's going to be pretty desperate situations for most clubs, especially in the middle of March. For most teams in European seasons, they'll be pretty darn desperate. It's going to be like taking up a job with a club who have just made their way out of a nightclub or bar around 3 a.m. They're going to be desperate just to find anyone they can to make sure that they get home safely, I dare say. So it's going to be a little bit of struggle street early on in this Journeyman save, but hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it and see where we do land our first job during the course of today's episode. A quick look as well at what things do look like in some of the bigger leagues. I've already noticed actually a couple of insecure jobs there over on the right-hand side. We'll just see if we can get a quick look at the Premier League. Southampton have sacked their manager. In terms, though, of what the Premier League does look like, Man City on top, so to be fair, that's a bit of a bug compared to real life. 13 points clear Liverpool in second, Arsenal in third, and Tottenham. They must have won a trophy with Ange in charge. So definitely some weird stuff going on there. In the save, Everton have got an extra points deduction, and Forest, financial mismanagement, and at the bottom of the league. So Forest getting done dirty there, not too sure how Nuno still has a job. To be fair, that job currently the holy grail of New Zealand football with Chris Wood, Tyler Bindon and Marco Stamenic on their books. So if we can get that job early on in the save, it's very unlikely that could be quite interesting with all the New Zealanders that they do have on their books. But the Premier League certainly looking a lot different to how it does in real life. Marcus Rashford, you can see there, is still at Aston Villa. That's the reason that we did turn off that first transfer window and did start in October when the Indian season was sort of getting underway. You can see there, attribute-wise, he is quite handy and doing quite well there at Aston Villa. So indeed, we're all up to date in terms of transfers in the save, even though the Premier League does look a little bit weird there with the table and Man City running away with the league with only 9 games to go. But we're more worried now about the job centre and what ones we can get. Let's make our way over here and see what has popped up in terms of the managerial jobs that we can get. You can see there are a couple in Belgium in the Challenger Pro League. Also, there's a fair few there in Congo. That could certainly be an interesting place to start off. Obviously, there's going to be quite a few in England in the lower tiers as well as in the Premier League there with Southampton. But definitely, you'd imagine it'll be something like the Vanarama National or lower if we do get a job in England. Unfortunately, we could not find a database that matched up with all those around the world ones that went any lower than what was in the base game without causing issues. So it does mean England is what it is in the base game. We've got Germany there down to the free league. There's a job there in Morocco, which could be quite interesting. A few in Portugal, a couple in Saudi Arabia, who I dare say won't get there for a little while, even though it would be quite fun to spend all that dirty money. We've got Serbia as well, South Africa, Spain, quite a few popping up there in the third tier, it looks like, of Sweden. A couple in Tahiti, which could be interesting, maybe a foot in the door there for a job in Oceania, seeing as unfortunately no jobs have popped up in New Zealand, which is a bit disappointing. I was hoping we might get one somewhat close to home here in the save and almost do a little bit like a non-league to Legends style. Unfortunately, that might not be the case unless we do get a bit deeper in the New Zealand season, because to be fair, that kicks off around this time in game anyway, and one job in the Eredivisie, but that'll be far too big for us. So I think here we'll just click apply all and see which clubs are so desperate that they want us to come in for an interview. And unbelievably, only 9.25 hours here into our career as a football manager, we've got our first job interview. I'm a little bit concerned about these guys here. US Telga, who I'm not too sure where they're from, might have been the club that were from Morocco. These guys might be the Bonnie Blue of football clubs, because seriously, we've just started our career and they want us to have a hoon on them, which does seem quite desperate from them there, only 9 hours in to our managerial career. Obviously, not too big a standards there with those guys. You can see below that we've had a couple of our other job applications received. This is the first email we've got through at 8:50 a.m, so it's even actually earlier than I thought it was. But you can see here the club, they are predicted to finish 7th in that league. They're the Pro 1 in Morocco, but are in 15th. We might need to check actually how close that is to relegation, but these guys are 1.5-star reputation club. Of course, we can't check the players because a tribute masking's on and they are in Morocco, so we'll have no idea they're down, just inside of the relegation zone. But to be fair, they're not that far away from survival. Just check out here where they were supposed to be on the season preview. They're down in 13th, so to be fair, they're only doing a little bit worse than they're supposed to be. I guess we're going to show up for this interview because certainly they were pretty keen on us. Only took them 8 hours. Yeah, the Bonnie Blue here of football clubs, it feels like, with them offering us a job interview this early on. Also, we'll just check out here their finances. Not too bad, 63.5k in terms of pounds in the transfer budget, 28k a week they've got wage and about, 2.1k spare. So to be fair, a little bit of money if we can sign some players early on here at our first interview with US Tawaga. If we get the job, we'll tell them it's great to be here. How we overcome the relatively big obstacle of not speaking the language? Football, universal game, we'll be right. We'll just say that even though we're going to have no idea what we're doing early on here, and also we're just trying to forge ahead with our career. That's why we are in for so many jobs. The club's looking for a candidate capable of performing to competition expectations, something their last manager did not do. Are we confident we can handle that? Do we do a promise, or do we just say it's all about the process? It will lead to good results eventually. Do we do that, or do we promise that will succeed? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's do a promise nice and early. Here they parted company with their last manager much earlier than expected. I think here we go with we're not concerned about the previous manager. We do us here in the save. What makes us the ideal candidate? I think we've got the passion, fight and spirit, because we certainly don't have the acumen or the history that some of those other answers there do say, with this being our first job. Obviously, they're desperate. We'll tell them we can come in as soon as possible. They want us to work within the wage budget, avoid relegation, and be competitive in the cup over there in Morocco. And the years off the back of that, just make sure that they don't get relegated. So to be fair, not the highest expectations there for this first job interview that we do have. I think we'll tell them that we can definitely avoid relegation. There's that transfer budget. Definitely not going to argue with this in our first job interview. Also, I think the wage budget we're quite happy with, and definitely not going to ask for a new stadium or anything like that this soon. So there's our first job interview very, very early from US Tolga over there in Morocco. Not too sure if I'm pronouncing that right. That might be a reason to avoid those guys. Their badge, it looks okay. The green and the yellow, though, not too sure if I'm too keen on those uniform colours. But early doors, we've already had an interview. Fingers crossed that might be a good chance for us to get our first job at the save. And would you believe it, the job interviews are flooding in early here. You can see there Blackpool. They've told us that our job application with them is unsuccessful, but only a day off the back of that first interview we had. Now we've got one with Buxton in the Vanarama National League North, expected to finish 13th according to the media prediction. These guys, a bit lower reputation than what we just had with that interview over in Morocco, just 1 star, but they are 22nd in the league. They're deep inside of a relegation fight. To be fair though, just like that team from Morocco, only 3 points away from safety, albeit they will be quite late in their season over there in England. In terms of the season preview, they're supposed to be 16th, just above Marine and some other teams who are in that relegation fight with them. So to be fair, this looks like a team who should be doing a lot better than what they are. So we might be able here to save them from relegation, get that on our CV nice and early here in the safe. To be for this interview, probably going to go quite similarly to that previous one that we did have. Again here, we'll promise that we can back ourselves to succeed going forward. Again, we'll probably say here that we're not concerned about what the previous manager did. Make sure we don't make too many promises here in this first job interview. Again, probably going with passion on this one. We don't have a reputation, and we probably can't count on our previous managerial acumen, having not had a job so far in the save. We can take charge immediately now. These guys want us to work within the wage budget, grow the club's reputation, which might be difficult if they're in a relegation fight in the Vanarama National League North. They want us to avoid relegation and also be competitive in the FA Cup and FA Trophy. To be fair though, that might be pretty difficult this season. I dare say they're probably already out of those competitions if they're in a relegation fight. We'll tell the guys that we're absolutely fine with no expectations for this season, albeit with these guys being in the Vanarama National League North, if they get relegated and we take that job, we'd then get sacked straight away at the end of the season. Their finances don't look nearly as good as what we saw before either in Morocco with US Tuaga. So to be fair, these guys are a bit more of a struggling club, but to be fair, it's an English club. Haven't actually done an English lower league club so far on the channel here since it started, so it will be something a little bit different. To be fair, their nickname, not too bad. They're called the Bucks. We might be able to here get our antlers up at Buxton Football Club. So here's our second job interview that we have had, probably a bit more of one that we could land. I dare say that Moroccan club, despite their desperateness, are a little bit of a step up from these guys, but 2 job interviews within the first couple of days, we might have a few options for that first job. And unfortunately, we've got some bad news here off the back of that first job interview that we did have, as well as the second, but this one more relevant to that job offer in Morocco. US Tuaga have unfortunately told us that we were unsuccessful with that application. Not too sure why they were so keen to have a look at us then, considering they literally only took 8 hours to give us a job interview over there in Morocco, but unfortunately we've been beaten there by Demba Umba. We'll just check out here what he does look like. Previously was a Generation Foot, so to be fair, that's not too bad compared to what we've got going. His attributes, yeah, he's got a bit of a step up on us there in terms of a manager, so to be fair, can't complain too much about that one. Unfortunately, no trip to Morocco for us. Just a quick update as well to what's going on over in the job centre these days. We've got some other nations that have popped up, France there, Australia, and also if we go down a bit further, the same jobs that were there previously. But to be fair, all in divisions that are probably a little bit out of our reach. Not too sure at the moment if we could apply for Sydney FC or Angers. It probably wouldn't make too much difference. We'll do it anyway. But at the moment, looking like Buxton might be our best shot at getting a job early. And going forward a couple of days off that first job rejection there from that club in Morocco, we've got our first job offer, and it is from Buxton. The Bucks here offering us a £350 per week 1-year contract to go to the Tarmac Silverlands. Obviously though, if the club gets relegated, it would only be the rest of the season, and we better check actually how much longer they do have to go. They've actually risen up to 21st. Last time I think they were down in 22nd, which is interesting considering that most of their form of late has been losses. Let's check out here their schedule. I think their job interview was back on the 11th. Indeed, they beat Chester 2-0 away from home. That result might not be too bad. Those guys up in 5th. So actually, these guys obviously do have a little bit of ability. Unfortunately, they then beat it up with a 3-1 loss at home to Curzon Ashton. Those guys all the way down in 18th. To be fair though, they are in some quite good form. So definitely mixing the efforts here currently are this Buxton team. Just checking here their schedule, they've got Peterborough Sports up next, who were supposed to finish 20th, but currently are in 14th. A quick look at this league table, they are about 22 points above Buxton, who these days are only 2 points behind Marine, not that far away from escaping that relegation zone. So to be fair, they're in a bit better of a situation than when we had that job interview. But if they can pick up a point there against Peterborough Sports, or even maybe pick up a win, I think then, if no other job interviews do come through, because nothing's come through off the back of the interview that we did have with Buxton, which these days is a week and a half or so ago, we might go to Buxton and just see if we can keep them up in the remainder of the season. I believe they've got 7 games left there, so it wouldn't be the longest, especially if we delay like I'm leaning towards, and see what they do against Peterborough Sports before we do accept this job, because off the back of that Peterborough Sports game, they then, if we go back to Buxton, take on the worst team in the league, Farsley Celtic, all the way down the bottom. So to be fair, that could be quite a good first game for us just to build up some confidence and hopefully boost the morale. So we might just delay for now and see what they do against Peterborough Sports, and if they're still in a situation where we can save them before they take on Farsley Celtic, because surely that would be a team we can beat in our first game in charge. And we've gone for the week off the back of delaying that job offer there from Buxton, and they've come back and we've had no more job interviews ever since that one there with Buxton. So it's been a couple of weeks since our last job interview. I dare say if we want a job throughout the rest of this European season, this might be the best time to take one. You can see there they've got a little bit of transfer budget and wage budget. Be fair, I'm pretty sure we could still sign players on free transfers if we do need to improve the squad throughout the rest of the season. So we might even be able to do some moves to try and keep them up there in the Vanarama National North League. £350 a week, not the biggest wage, but to be fair, We'll check and see if that's livable shortly. But let's check out what they did in that game against Peterborough Sports. They picked up a 1-1 draw, so to be fair, that's not too bad a result. They're still there in 21st there in the league stats-wise. A relatively even game, to be fair. They probably should have picked up a win there. The opposition with an early red card in the second half. Unfortunately, they didn't make the most of it. So really missed chance there for Buxton. Maybe if we were in charge of that game, they would have done a bit better. They have lost one of their players there in Ethan Fitzhugh. Not too sure yet if he's any good. He might be, though, with that value, that though down he's a star player. So that could be a little bit of an issue. But let's just check out here what that result does do for the table. They're down in 21st, 4 points behind Marine, but that next game against Farsley Celtic might give a chance for them to close that gap. So with no other job offers coming through for all the applications that we have put in, a quick look again at what the job centre does look like. Still pretty similar to what it was before. Still waiting to hear from some clubs over in Congo. Maybe that season doesn't start for a wee while yet. Also, absolutely nothing coming in from Tahiti as well, which is a little bit surprising. I thought that might be one nation that we could go to. But at the moment, it's just Buxton, and it's looking like the only job that we can get. So I'm actually leaning towards accepting this one, and hopefully we pick up a win in our first game in charge there. Otherwise, we're probably going to get relegated in our first job after only 6 games. So I think here we will go to Buxton as long as we can find somewhere to stay on £350 a week. Found ourselves a little website here. We can check out some accommodation available to rent over in Buxton in Derbyshire, England. And to be fair, it looks pretty achievable that we could live on that £350 a week. We can always just live on sausage rolls or pies from the local Greggs or whatever the shop over there in England is. Never been, so I'm not too sure what the name is there of your sausage roll and pie chain over in the UK. But there's some options here around £120 a week, and they're probably going to be okay for our first job in football. You can see there that one is the cheapest. There's some photos. There's even a couch included there in that place. So to be fair, we don't need furniture, although we are going to need a bed. So maybe that's a bit of a lie about not needing furniture. Hopefully we can get one in, or even a sleeping bag with our spare 200 or so pounds a week that we do have. We've got an oven. We've got there a cooktop, and it looks like a heater as well. So to be fair, there's a bit of stuff that we can use here in this cheapy place that we do have potentially here for our first accommodation in the save. It doesn't look too bad. Let's just go back and see if we can maybe find somewhere a little bit fancier that we could sneak into, like this place here, £138 a week. Does look like this might be next to a shop or something as well, which would be quite useful. Nature Zone and Heart and Soul. To be fair, not too sure if we need to go to a nail boutique. Not something I'm too keen on. And next to that also, that Nature Zone looks like a pet shop. So to be fair, not quite as useful as I thought it might be if one of those shops was a dairy or something. But having a quick look at inside of this place, this looks a lot more modern, a lot more fancy. I think this time we might have found our accommodation for our trip here to Buxton. That bathroom actually looks really good for that cheap. So I'm quite impressed there with that place. Might even be some security there or something going on next to the phone outside of that door. So to be fair, I don't mind the look of that place, even though the nail boutique and pet shop probably won't get used from me here during our time in Buxton. But that looks like a lovely kitchen, a lovely bathroom. That should do us. It does mean we'll only have about 190 or so pounds a week spare. In fact, no, I'm lying, £210 a week spare to spend on pies and sausage rolls, which to be fair, I think we should be okay with. So I think here we've got our accommodation in High Street, Buxton. We can make our way to the Bucks at Buxton FC. And a very quick negotiation from us there with Buxton. We did get rid, for some reason, of the relegation wage drop, even though they'd actually be firing us if that went through. So really, that wasn't needed. If we get promoted, we get paid more, which will be nice. But £350 a week, that does make sure we've got our sausage roll and pie money. We should be good over here in Buxton, England. Let's go to Ford and see what this club is up to if we can save them from relegation in the Vanarama National League North. You can see the eyebrows have been raised with our appointment. I'm not surprised, you desperate fellas, one of only 2 clubs that wanted us on the first couple of days of us being a manager, and we've had nothing for a couple of weeks since a little bit of a dry spell for us here with our job offers. But thankfully, we've got a job. Let's hope we can keep Buxton up, even though they've only won one of their last 5 games. But as we saw, that was against a team who are in a playoff push this season. So they do have some ability. Let's hope we can find a way to make that more consistent late on here in the season. With only 6 games left, they've been knocked out in the FA Cup and the FA Trophy, as we suspected, 21st in the National League North. They were predicted to finish 13th, though the year founded 1877. Their best patch did come during the 2010s. Their last competition win in 2022, a club with a growing history. Let's see if we can make that even more during our time here at the club. Fingers crossed, as I said, we might be able to sign some players because they've got no striker. That's a bit concerning. Oh dear, we might not have 11 players here at Buxton. That could be an issue with us trying to actually pick up some points here late on in this season. Oh dear, what have I done? Can I reload the game? No, we can't reload the game, Sean, but that is seriously terrifying. They've only got 10 players in their best 11. To be fair, though, it did look like they might be quite handy in a 4-2-3-1. There's all the stuff that we did see earlier when going through the job interview that we did have off back of the season. If we're still here, just continue to avoid relegation. So we'll see if we can keep them up this season. Otherwise, there'll be another job hunt pretty shortly in this save here on the channel. Our fans want us to get the better of Matlock Town if we play against them, and obviously avoid relegation. We'll do that every month, not every week. I'm not crazy, and we'll avoid that press conference as much as possible. But here we are at Buxton FC. Let's just have a quick look here and see what the squad might look like, is what the supporters are expecting from us here at Buxton, and the supporter profile, moderate influence. Hopefully we can keep those guys happy. To be fair, that's not a terrible social media following, 977, but only 200 season ticket holders. To be fair, might not be getting the biggest crowds here for our games at the Tarmac Silverlands here in Buxton. But as I said, if they can beat teams like Chester, we might be okay keeping them up, albeit we've only got 6 games left this season. We'll just check out here the fixtures and what they are. We've got Redcliffe off the back of Farsley Celtic. They're in 12th. They were predicted to finish second. That one might be a little bit tough, albeit that one is at home. Hereford, they're in 7th away. That could definitely be a bit tough. This is probably something I really should have checked out, apart from just that Farsley Celtic game before I took the job. Kidderminster Harriers, that's at home. They're in 3rd. Oh dear, I really should have checked this before I accepted the job, as well as the player numbers. Now, I'm quite concerned about this first job. We've got Leamington away from home. They're 22nd. That's definitely a game, as well as Farsley Celtic we should be aiming to win. In our last game of the season, that's against Spennymoor Town, who are already guaranteed to be in the playoffs. So really, that's a little bit of a brutal run home, apart from Farsley Celtic and Leamington. So this could actually be a little bit of an impossible task, but I'll tell you what, we'll see what we can do here in our first job of the save. A quick look at what these players do look like before we pick a tactic. Thankfully, there's more than 11. We'll just double check here and make sure that there is indeed that many players. For some reason, I've got one who's out away from the club on loan, and also one who's injured. They've got, if we check on this, 14 players. So to be fair, we should be able to fill our squad here without any greyed out players, which is quite relieving off the back of what we saw during the course of that club intro. So we'll try and sort out here some tactics for these boys and see what we might go with going into our first game of the season tomorrow when we take on Farsley Celtic, and really a must-win clash. And with the help of our assistant manager, I've got some tactics here going to our first game in charge in a couple of hours' time. As I said, it's going to be massive, that first one tomorrow when we take on Farsley Celtic, especially with that one being at home. But here's our squad going into the remainder of the season. We definitely have some strong areas, but some pretty weak areas. There's only a couple of white players, some actual real players that we do have on our bench. Sam Osborne, who can cover right wing, left wing, also do a job up front. Not a bad player, but isn't quite as good as some other players that we do have in our attack. We'll actually check out the attack first, because this looks like a really strong area of our team. Up front, we've got Diego Di Girolamo, Italian striker, is quite handy looking, but is on 1k a week, and considering our budget here, that's a fair old whack of money. To be fair, though, has been here for quite a while, and his goal scoring record this season isn't too bad, but on 1k a week, maybe we should be doing a bit better there on that wage. So I'm a little bit concerned already about our striker on such a big wage, but fingers crossed he can do a good job for us there up front in this 4-2-3-1. Indeed, that looks like the best tactic here for our fellas that we do have available. Luke Brennan at left wing, actually on a pretty low wage of £180 a week, and he looks like the best player in the squad, 4.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. Let's hope he does a decent job. Does the former New Saints lad somehow picked him up off of them to Buxton on a free transfer. In fact, it was actually from Wigan. He was on loan at the New Saints before then moving to the Bucks. In central attacking midfielder, we've got Ethan Fitzhugh, the player who did get injured in that game that we saw earlier. Thankfully, he's recovered nice and early. Quite a good player. So again, attack-wise, look quite good here with this Buxton team. And outright, we've got Jack Stobbs, who also looks pretty darn good for this level. So as I said, I think in terms of attack, we're pretty decent here at Buxton for the remainder of the season. Even midfield isn't too bad. Connor Kirby can do the balling midfielder role and looks quite handy, does the club captain. In midfield alongside him, Will Truman looks quite handy for us. We're going to use him as a deep-lying playmaker in a 4-2-3-1 gegenpress, because that's what the assistant manager did say would be one of the better tactics. And as we know, in FM, a gegenpress usually does work quite well, but again, a handy place at the front bit of the field. As I said, that looks pretty good. It's when we get to defence that we get a little bit concerned. We've got Josh Williams at left back, who looks okay. Not too bad. We'll certainly get by with him for the remainder of the season. Then our centre backs, we've got Malachi Reeve with 2-star current ability there on the right-hand side. He's got lots of potential, but yeah, not too good currently. Maybe that's an area we could look to improve if we can sign players on a free. And alongside him, we've got Zane Francis Unhull, who should be more of a left back, but currently doing a job at centre back, because that's the only player we have who can cover that position. But to be fair, he looks okay, just a little bit shorter than I would like for a centre back. The big issue though is right back, because there's no right backs at the club. So we're going to have to use here some greyed out players. Definitely going to need to try and sign someone there in that right back role. In terms of in goal, we've got Joe Youngin on loan from Shrewsbury Town. He looks okay, fingers crossed he can keep a few clean sheets for us late on in the season. And the rest of our squad, we've got Elias Rouse, who we called up from the under-21s, the only player in the entire youth system here at Buxton. So if you're wondering if we had any players in our youth squads, he was the only one, which is a bit concerning with only 3-star potential, but thankfully a backup goalkeeper if there is an injury to Joe Young, and also a few more attackers here on our bench. Tom Elliott, who can do a job in midfield as well as out on either wing. He looks quite handy with 3-star current ability and potential. Will Pabaga is actually on a non-contract, the only player here on one of those, which is a bit surprising, but he has quite a bit of potential, maybe someone we should give some game time to off of the bench. And finally, Ryan Vickers, the backup striker there to De Girolamo. He looks handy. So as I said, attack-wise, I think we're pretty good. Just really need to strengthen that defence, because any injuries there to those players at the back, and we've got absolutely no cover. So I dare say that's what we're going to try and improve going into the rest of this season if we can make some signings, but fingers crossed despite that we can still pick up some good results with that attack that we've got, especially in that first game tomorrow when we come back and take on Farsley Celtic. But I think that will do it for today's episode. We found our first job here of the save at Buxton FC. If you enjoyed that episode and are looking forward to the rest of our time here at Buxton, hopefully it'll be relatively long and not just a few episodes before we get relegated. But if you're looking forward to it, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you're looking forward to the rest of the series, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow, play our first couple of games in charge as we take on Farsley Celtic and Radcliffe at home. That Farsley one in particular, as I said, a must-win game. Otherwise, it might be all over Red Rover after only our first game in charge. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.